Morning, everybody. Welcome to the All Out Blitz here on Phantom Sports. Week 6 in the NFL. Great time to be alive. We got tons of questions coming in already in terms of some of the big injury news that has already happened this morning. Some guys that are in shouldn't have been in. Some guys that are out that shouldn't have been out. Week 6 in the NFL. Great time to be alive. We got tons. Let's mute this a little bit. Got to turn off all our devices here as we're streaming across all the different platforms. So thank you for those out there. We're going to get right into it. Some breaking news here. We'll go through the list. Ryan Tannehill, the quarterback for the Dolphins, looks to be doubtful for today's game. This is really new. We didn't see him on the injury report during the week. We didn't think it was serious. Going against that really tough Bears defense, this is a dream spot for anyone that wants to stream the Bears this week, use them in DFS. I mean, you're looking at Brock Osweiler as the quarterback for the Dolphins today. I would downgrade every single person on the Dolphins. I know we saw a question come in already from Pat, what to expect from Kenyon Drake moving forward. When you got Brock Osweiler on your team now, starting quarterback for the Dolphins most likely today, you got to downgrade everyone. So that's Stills, that's Amendola, that's Gore if you happen to be playing him, and especially Kenyon Drake. Now, he might get some check down pass from Osweiler, but against that Bears defense, it's going to be in his face and looking to pressure him as much as they are. To me, that's a no-go. That's a terrible situation in Miami. They were 3-0. Now they're 3-2 and got Brock Osweiler against the Bears. I think that's a great spot now for the Bears. If you're in a survivor pool and you're still alive somehow because of all the upsets this year, the Bears against Brock Osweiler sure seems like a real good one. Some other injury news, big news. Dalvin Cook inactive today. That's a surprise. We heard last night late that he was going to be on a snap count around 20 to 25 potential opportunities there for him on snaps, but he's inactive today going up against the Cardinals. That means another start for Latavius Murray. He really hasn't capitalized on it just yet. However, I think this is the type of a game where they'll lean on him. They should have a lead. They should have a big lead. Second half, a lot of carries for Murray. So if you got him, I would certainly play him as a running back 2 or a flex. And if you want to play him in DFS, I don't think it's a terrible strategy. The Cardinals did win last week, but that was against the 49ers. I expect the Vikings defense to be very aggressive. Look to keep the momentum that they had from their Eagles win on the road, now against the Cardinals and the rookie quarterback. So to me, Latavius Murray is in a pretty decent spot. Sony Michel and the rest of the Pats look to be good to go tonight against the Chiefs in what should be a great game. Plenty of points, plenty of yards, plenty of reception. So Sony Michel, to me, is already assuming that RB1 status, probably RB2 in most leagues where you've drafted a stud running back. But he's going to be active. Hogan looks to be active. Gronk's going to be active. Eric Berry and Justin Houston on the other side look doubtful for the Chiefs. So that's going to be more opportunities for this Patriots offense to just sustain, their drives. We'll get into that game in a little bit. LaShawn McCoy news this morning that it doesn't appear he's going to be traded. So for all those fans looking for him to get out of Buffalo to increase his fantasy stock, it just doesn't look like he's going to go to Philly or anywhere else. Other guys that look to be active: Jalen Ramsey, Deshaun Watson, O.J. Howard, we'll talk about in a minute, Isaiah Crowell, and Brandon Cooks and Cooper Kupp. But with Cooks and Kupp, remember, snow in Denver, most likely a ton of snow during the day leading up to the game. Might not be the best environment there to certainly get a lot of points out of Goff and those receivers. We'll take a step back, get a quick question. Fuller, Baldwin, Lynch, or Powell in flex? I got to go with Will Fuller. The guy's a big play waiting to happen. Every time he's healthy, he produces. To me, Doug Baldwin, he's the only weapon now in that Seattle offense from a receiver standpoint. The Raiders are going to be keying on him. I could see him getting a ton of targets unlike last week where I think he only had one target. I just can't trust that kind of production week to week. I don't like Marshawn Lynch against Seattle. I think he's at the end of the line there. Powell, I would have loved today if Isaiah Crowell was inactive against the Colts. You saw what James White and Sony Michel did last week against that Colts defense, or should we just say people on the field because they weren't really a defense. But to me, Fuller's the big play weapon there. Watson loves playing with him. Watson's active. I think Fuller's the man there. Jameis or Cam? Great question. I actually love Jameis this week. Wherever I can play him, I'm playing him. I think that the Falcons defense and the Bucs defense are both terrible, as we know. I think they're going to both go total point spread, total points number over 65. To me, I love Jameis at this price if you're playing in DFS in both FanDuel or DraftKings. I also think that if you got him in a streaming format today, he's going to be a really good play. O.J. Howard looks like he's going to be back. We'll talk more about him. You got Cameron Brate. You got Humphreys. Of course, Mike Evans. I think this is where you see Ronald Jones, the talented rookie from USC, getting more involved. So to me, I love Jameis there. So I'd take him over Cam. Look, I just don't love Cam as personally, and I also just think he'll have one of those weeks here or there where he'll just not be accurate, and you'll just be in a real problem. Let's go over to Jeff has a question. Naheem Hines, Geronimo Allison, Marquise Goodwin, or Mike Williams? I'm going to go with Hines. Here's why. The Colts are down so many weapons on their offense between Hilton and Doyle being out. Ebron's not 100%. I looked at the injury report the other day for Eric Ebron. It said chest, ankle, neck. I mean, the guy was a walking, injury waiting to happen. So to me, Hines, this guy's done it in college. He did it at NC State. You saw what he did last week against the Pats. I think he's a great play. If that's a PPR league, Jeff, it says PPR flex, I would certainly go with him. Geronimo Allison's not 100%. He probably won't play tomorrow night in the Monday Night Football game against the Niners. Marquise Goodwin, I just can't trust anyone. CJ Beathard and Mike Williams is just too boom or bust for me. We'll get to some of the other questions in a second. Quick update here. No Jamison Crowder, it looks like. No Chris Thompson for the Redskins. That's going to mean, to me, a lot of Capri Bibbs, the guy from Colorado State. We've seen players from Colorado State perform before. Adrian Peterson's also banged up. He's not 100% with that shoulder injury. So to me, Capri Bibbs is a sneaky, sneaky play, especially if these injuries are going to linger, where if he gets a good day production-wise today, you pick him up, trade him for something more valuable. Matt Breida most likely out tomorrow. He's a game-time decision, but again, you can't risk it, so you got to bench him and find a better option. The other two guys I want to talk about, and we mentioned it briefly, we have Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison. Tricky situation. Tomorrow night, Monday night game. So unless you have Scantling on your bench ready to plug in there, you got to go with another option. These guys weren't healthy last week. Scantling's actually really good. He performed well last week, 7 catches and a touchdown. So to me, Cobb and Allison are both bench guys until further notice. Let's keep the questions coming in. We got the fantasy football page. We got the all sports page. We got the Phantom page. Of course, plenty of content throughout the week. James or Cam, keep the questions coming. We got another one. Any concerns for the Ram offense in Denver? Are you starting Cooks, Kupp, and Woods? Great question. That comes from the Rams fan club, Rams Football Alliance page. Great question. I actually have more faith in Todd Gurley, obviously, than anyone. And you'll see he's priced at $10,000. He's the only guy priced at $10,000 this week at DraftKings. To me, this is a very hesitant spot. You got to check the weather. If the weather stops, if the snow breaks by, let's say, 2 o'clock Eastern, 2:30 Eastern, and they have time to clear the field, and it's conducive to throwing the ball, I would certainly go there. I would check the weather report. But again, because you're probably going against guys or have other options at 1 o'clock, to me, it's just not worth the risk, especially a guy like Robert Woods. I think Cooper Kupp's a decent play because he's not as much of a deep down the field kind of guy. He's more of that intermediary route runner. So to me, those are the easier throws, especially if it's snowing. So to me, I don't like Goff today. I don't like the Rams. The only guy I really like on that offense today is Gurley. But most weeks, obviously, we all love that Rams offense. Mayfield or Luck? This is a really great question, Ron. Thank you for this. It's a good one. To me, I'm playing Baker Mayfield today. I think he's going to have to put up yards and points against that Chargers defense. Last week, he was steady. He's been that presence in the huddle. And look, Andrew Luck, for as good as he was one of my stock down guys this week, simply because he has no one to throw the ball to. The guys that he has at receiver right now are not guys that you've ever really heard of. They're guys that were mediocre in college, like Zach Pascal with the Old Dominion. I mean, guys you've never heard of. I think his best receiver at this point is Ebron, which is scary because of how bad he was in Detroit, and Nyheim Hines, who's a running back. So I like Baker Mayfield. I think they get Duke Johnson a lot more involved today because they're down Rashard Higgins. They're down another receiver. I think Njoku gets it going this week. He's gotten a bunch of targets. I think it's 18 targets the last 2 weeks since Baker's taken over. So to me, I like Baker in that one. Here we go. Is the Carolina D a sneaky good DFS start today? Yeah, I don't mind the Panthers today, especially now that we've heard that Chris Thompson and Crowder are out for the Redskins. They've played okay through the season. I think they control the ball here. Cam should not, make as many mistakes as we think. I like them there. I love the Bears today now that you got, potentially Brock Osweiler playing quarterback, and we'll continue to obviously update that throughout the day. To me, the Bears are someone I love. The other game I like is Baltimore and Tennessee on both sides for defensive purposes. The Ravens didn't put up anything last week against the Browns. The Titans we know struggle on offense, so I think both of those defenses are good options as well. So that's one for you there. Mayfield or Cousins, Josh, that's another great one. I mean, to me, you got to go Kirk Cousins. As much as I like Baker, look at the weapons that guy Kirk Cousins has on his team. No Dalvin Cook, so again, you know that they're not going to rely necessarily on Latavius Murray. So that means more for Diggs, more for Thielen, one more for Rudolph. I think he'll chuck the ball over the field in another 300-yard passing game. So to me, it's Kirk Cousins. Will Jordan Howard bounce back, or will the Bears stick with Cohen? I actually think that was more of a game script play where they just spread the Buccaneers out 2 weeks ago. and they just had Cohen literally line up in the slot, and they had Taylor Gabriel. I think Howard, this is a big week for Jordan Howard. I think he gets it going. They're going to want to control the ball on the road against Miami. He's a really solid running back. I mean, how many? He I think was first or second in the league last year, I think, in rushing. They're going to get him back on track. Matt Nagy had the bye week to kind of figure that out. And remember, this is Trubisky on the road, not Trubisky at home. They're going to want to take the ball out of his hands a little bit. I think Howard's the type of guy to do it. I think he scores today, goes over 100 yards in what should be a win against Brock Osweiler in Miami. So while we take a break there real quick, we're going to go through some top stories. Obviously, we got the Chiefs-Patriots showdown in Foxborough tonight. This should be a fantasy bonanza, one of my favorite times of the year to talk about these kind of showdowns. Well, yes, the Chiefs went into there last year, opening night. Alex Smith lit them up. It was the Kareem Hunt coming out party. To me, Patriots 3 extra days to prepare for the Chiefs this week after they were played Thursday night against the Colts. So to me, this is a great game. Expect the Patriots and Chiefs to go into the fourth quarter. Maybe last team that has the ball wins. Then the Rams, as we just mentioned, can they stay perfect? Gurley, amazing again last week against Seattle with his 3 touchdowns. I think he's the key again today in Denver in the snow. I don't like Case Keenum, obviously, in the snow. Their running game is suspect. Can't trust those receivers in the snow. So to me, it's Gurley and the Rams. I do think they remain perfect and get a win by double digits. Then it's really put up or shut up time for me with the Steelers and the Falcons. I mean, last week the Packers and the Falcons. The Steelers last week went up and look at this terrible tackling against James Conner. The guy is not Le'Veon Bell. He's pretty good, but he's no Le'Veon Bell, and he looked like him right there. The Falcons need to get it going or else their season's going to be over, their defense especially. And the Packers, again, they got pretty much handled. Terrible job in the kicking game last week with Mason Crosby. They got guys injured. Tomorrow they got to step up and beat the 49ers at home on Monday Night Football. Then again, can Baker make it 2 straight? I think that he's in a really decent spot to do so. He's a great command of the offense. He's got Njoku, as you see here, making plays for him. They're going to have to try to keep pace with that Chargers offense. I think this one's pretty close. I think, again, this comes down to the last 3-4 minutes. I like the Chargers in this game, but again, would not be shocking to see Baker come out on top. Then can Mitch do it again? Look, the last time we saw Mitch Trubisky was running the run-pass option with 48 points against the Bucs. He's got Miami. He should control the game and the ball with Osweiler at quarterback. So to me, we'll see if Mitch Trubisky can do it again. And then Monday Night Football preview. Look, Rodgers has to win this game at home. The 49ers are down their quarterback, might be down their top running back. So to me, he's the guy this week. You got to come out with a win. 49ers are in trouble, but we'll see how they play tomorrow night. So we got more questions coming in. Let's get right to it. So we got Ebron or McDonald. Josh, great question. I think Ebron, if he's healthy, you got to play him. The guy is the best weapon right now for Andrew Luck. He's a PPR monster right now. You saw what he did to the Patriots last week. McDonald's been a little disappointing the last few weeks. In that game last week against the Falcons, which I thought he'd have a pretty big day, he was overshadowed by Austin Hooper on the other end for the Falcons. So to me, that's one I just wouldn't go with right away. I just think that that's the one to stay away from this week. So to me, you got to go Ebron. Who else we got here? More questions. Mayfield Cousins. Ebron McDonald. Ty Murray or Tyler Boyd PPR flex? Mike, I actually love Tyler Boyd this week. Reason being, I think A.J. Green is going to see a lot of Joe Hayden today in that Steelers-Bengals matchup. So to me, that means Tyler Boyd's going to be free to kind of roam wherever he wants to go. No Tyler Eifert, no Tyler Kroft. More targets for him there. I think Mixon's going to have a big day against that Steelers defense. I love what I've seen from Tyler Boyd this year so far. So to me, give me Tyler Boyd there. Would you trade Landry and Ingram for Elliott? No, I actually wouldn't, and here's the reason why. Ezekiel Elliott, as good as he is, he's the only piece on that Dallas offense, to me at least, that can be trusted. And I think teams are going to more and more key on him. I think he's due for a big season individually, but I think as Landry and Mayfield develop that chemistry here, he's going to become a PPR beast, especially as they have injuries at the receiver position and they're very inexperienced elsewhere. Then you throw in Ingram, who was great last week, couple touchdowns. I think you saw what they did with him last year. They want to get back to that a little bit. I wouldn't be worried about Kamara simply because he's just too talented. He's going to get his. I think over the bye week they'll figure that out. I just think it's a little too much to give Landry and Ingram for Elliott, because again, if Ingram wasn't necessarily suspended for the first 4 games this season, you're talking about a second-round pick. So you're talking about a second-round pick for a first-round pick, and a guy, to me, that's good, a lock for 6-7 catches week to week with Landry. So I think that's a little too much. Peyton Barber or Ronald Jones? This is a great question. I wish we had more information coming out of that bye, but I think that it's going to be the Ronald Jones time right now. He's a more explosive back. Barber's had his opportunities the first few weeks. He hasn't done anything with it. And to me, Ronald Jones, you used a high pick on him. let him go do his thing. I know he had a terrible preseason. I think this is the week, especially against a terrible defense in the Falcons. You let the guy just run with it. To me, that's what will happen. I think Winston feels comfortable, obviously, throwing to his receivers. He wants that explosive back. Peyton Barber has proved that's not him. So to me, it's Ronald Jones time down in Tampa Bay. Just dropped McDonald for T. Murray starting Ebron. Mike, good job there. Jared Kirk or Larry Fitzgerald? I think this is a very interesting question, and the reason is because you got Cook, who's a tight end, who obviously most situations, tight ends don't see as many targets as receivers, but that Cardinals offense is just so putrid right now. Yes, they have David Johnson, but he hasn't looked great despite his 2 touchdowns. Look at the actual game from last week. He wasn't really that good. You have the rookie quarterback, going up against the Vikings there this week. I think that makes trouble. Cook and the Raiders throw the ball all over the yard. I think today's no different. I think Derek Carr spreads it out. Cook's become one of his favorite targets. He's had pretty big weeks the last few weeks. So to me, as surprising as it is, I'm going to choose Cook over the future Hall of Famer Larry Fitzgerald this week. Would you take a flyer that's probably a free agent most? Who would you take as a flyer that's a free agent in some leagues? I think there's a few of these guys out there. Ronald Jones is certainly one of them that may be a free agent. And certainly, Josh, if you have a list of guys that are available in your league, simply just put them in there, and I'll go through them for you and kind of ask what you think in terms of what I think there. I think O.J. Howard's another guy. He's explosive. He's got Winston back this week, so a couple of bucks in there. I think Ito Smith is another name, and we'll talk about him later as we talk about keepers. Because of the injury history with Devontae Freeman and how he's just been out and out and out. You got Tevin Coleman. You see what Ito Smith has done in his limited action. He's scored a bunch of times, so he's a guy I would take a flyer on. And certainly, if Traquan Smith is a solid one too, as Jeff just mentioned. The guy is an explosive rookie. I was touting him week 1. He was a big play receiver at UCF last year in their championship season, and you saw what he did on Monday Night Football, 2 touchdowns. So if Ted Ginn is going to be out again, moving forward, he's a great option to take a flyer on. I think Valdez Scantling on the Packers. Look, Cobb's not getting any younger. Geronimo Allison's a project. Scantling's a decent receiver. He showed off last week, 7 catches and a touchdown. So I really like that a lot. And again, if you have more names there on the list that you have in your league that are available, I'll kind of go through and give my thoughts on them. Going to go to another question. 0.5 PPR pick 1. John Brown, Eckler, Keelan Cole, or Carson. I love Chris Carson. And Wilson or Dalton. Great question. I'm going to go Dalton, and here's why. Dalton's got those weapons. Normally, you say, who's the better quarterback? Who do I want to win a game for me? It's Russell Wilson over Andy Dalton 9 times out of 10. But this year, Dalton's been great. Even last week, when he struggled against the Dolphins, he still was respectable, still got them a 10-point win. I know there's a lot of it on their defense. But look, he's got A.J. Green. He's got Tyler Boyd. He's got Uzuma, who's a sleeper tight end this week. He's got Joe Mixon. He's just got so much more talent around him than Russell Wilson. So my answer is Dalton. In terms of your 0.5 PPR, I like Carson here. They've shown the Seahawks have the ability to maintain 2 solid running backs in terms of production with Davis and Carson. They're going up against the Raiders today. No defense. The game's in London, actually, so both teams are traveling all the way over there. So that's not going to affect either one of them any more or less than the other. To me, it's Chris Carson. I'm just not that big this week on Cole, who struggled, Eckler, and John Brown. That Ravens offense last week looked terrible against the Browns, so to me, I'd stay away. Olsen or Hooper? Can you imagine, Christian, if you asked someone this question at the beginning of the year, who would you rather play, Greg Olsen or Austin Hooper? This is going to sound crazy, but to me, the play is Hooper here, and there's two reasons why. One, the Bucs play no defense. You saw what Trey Burton did to them 2 weeks ago. He got down the field. It looked like he was just running on a track by himself, just doing a sprint. There was no one within 20 yards of him. The Bucs haven't gotten that much better over 2 weeks, and you just don't know how much you can trust Greg Olsen. He's missed time earlier this year. He's going to need surgery after the season. To me, he's one bad hit away from being gone, so to me, the play is Austin Hooper, shockingly. Dalton or Winston, 6-point touchdown. Again, I like Winston here. And the reason is that Falcons defense is putrid. They, I think, have allowed 37 points in 37 or more points, 3 consecutive weeks. I mean, come on. You got Mike Evans, who's an extremely talented receiver. You got O.J. Howard back. I think they're going to incorporate Ronald Jones a lot more. You got Humphries, who's a good possession receiver. Cameron Brate's one of his favorite targets. To me, it's Jameis Winston. I like Dalton this week against Pittsburgh because their secondary is shaky. But who knows? I think that Pittsburgh always plays Cincinnati tough. So to me, Tampa and Atlanta, if you guys could stack your lineups with all Falcons and Bucs this week, do it. Cousins, Rivers, or Winston. That is a great predicament to be in, Jesse. You know what? as much as I liked Dalton and as much as I liked Winston, I like Cousins even more this week. And the reason is, look at his weapons and his matchup compared to that of Jameis Winston. Now, look, I like Winston in the matchup against the Falcons, but you cannot compare Adam Humphries and Mike Evans to Thielen and Diggs and Rudolph. You just can't. Those guys are way better. Obviously, Evans is a stud, but when you have Thielen and Diggs, to me, that wins it all. They have no Dalvin Cook today. He's out. So to me, when you're looking at who to play, who's going to chuck it all over the field, to me, the answer is Kirk Cousins in that matchup. So great questions. Cape Compliment. Richard, no problem. Keep up the questions. I love it. One more. Do you trust Baldwin this week? Or would you start Snead or Kute over him 1 point PPR? You got to play Doug Baldwin. I mean, again, this is one of those questions that, when we're looking at, if I ask you this question when you drafted your team this year, you'd laugh. You'd be like, I cannot believe, what's going on here, that this is a real question. But look, Doug Baldwin, 1 catch last week, 1 target last week, I think, compared to someone, like Kute, who scored the last 2 weeks. But look, Russell Wilson's going to have to win the game this week against the Raiders if they're going to have any shot at a successful season. I think they got to get Baldwin involved, figure out a way. I'm sure they're scheming that all week. I go Baldwin there. We're going to jump over to the question over here. Okay. Robbie Anderson or Quincy Enunwa, and then Hunt or Fuller. Ron, I'm going to start with you. Hunt by a mile. I'm a Pats guy. That game tonight, I mean, last team with the ball wins. I think every single player on that field, whether you're talking about Chris Conley to Sammy Watkins to Edelman to Hogan, to Michelle White, every single one of those guys has a chance to go off tonight. You saw what Hunt did to them last year. I think they're going to try to do the same thing with Hunt this year in this game. It should be a great one. I'd certainly go Hunt. Much more upside there. Robbie Anderson and Quincy Enunwa from the Jets Football Alliance. Honestly, and I have to take a little drink here, neither, because I just don't think either one of them will have a nice day here against the Colts. Look, Anderson had those 2 long catches last week for touchdowns. He hadn't done anything before that since week 1. Anun was not 100%. If you had to play one, I guess Anderson has the bigger upside because the Colts secondary, you saw what happened with the Josh Gordon catch last week, that long touchdown with Brady and Gordon. So I would guess I would go with Anderson, bigger chance for bigger play there. Okay, so who do you start? Both Sanu and Uri, or which one? Also have Antonio and Landry. I'm guessing that's Antonio. Is that Antonio Callaway, I'm assuming? Not Antonio Brown, because that wouldn't be a real question. And if I had both of those combos, so Sanu and Ridley and Callaway and Landry, I'm going Ridley and Landry. Here's why. Forget last week. That's one game. Atlanta on the road in Pittsburgh. They got blown out. Ridley's been amazing so far this season. I think he has 6 or 7 touchdown catches. He's really looked like the best receiver on that team. Julio hasn't scored yet this season. So to me, you're going Ridley because I think that's going to be a bonanza. And Landry, I think he's a PPR beast. I don't trust Callaway. He's too much of a risk. I think you see the chemistry between Baker and Jarvis Landry. Not so as much with Antonio Callaway. Cousins or Rodgers? Give me Cousins. This is the reason why. Aaron Rodgers, again, might be down Randall Cobb. He might be down Geronimo Allison. Jimmy Graham isn't 100%. Devontae Adams isn't 100%, and their rushing game right now isn't that good, despite the fact that I like Aaron Jones this week. To me, Cousins is going to chuck the ball because they literally have no running back. I don't trust Latavius Murray. His receivers are solid. His tight end is great. Give me Kirk Cousins. Isaiah Crowell or Bilal Powell? You got to go Crowell simply because the guy's going to get the ball. If Crowell would have been out, I would have loved Bilal Powell this week because you saw what White and Michelle did last week against the Colts. But Crowell, if you have to play one of them, you're going to play Crowell. He's the starter. He'll hopefully get a bunch of carries. Look, last week he went over 200 yards. I think he only had 15 carries, so great production out of him last week. Scott Carmichael, standard pick 2, Kittle, Fitzgerald, Ebron, also Mike Davis or Austin Eckler. Give me Kittle and Ebron here. I don't love Fitzgerald in this matchup against the Vikings. I just think he's not 100% as well. I like Kittle. He's still performed with C.J. Beathard. They're going to probably be playing from behind tomorrow night in Lambeau, so give me him. And Ebron, if he's healthy and he's active this week, and I haven't seen anything, and I'm just running through this real quick, I haven't seen him as being inactive yet today. So to me, that's one. And Dalvin Cook, the reason he's out is he had a setback in pregame warm-up. So that's why he's inactive this week. Let's go. We got one more. We got another one. John Rinkowski, Cohen, Lynch, or Crowell. I like Crowell in the spot. Cohen, again, he's too much of a boomer bust week to week. He had a great performance 2 weeks ago, as we know, against the Bucks, where he had a bunch of points and a touchdown. To me, though, Crowell's going to be he's going to get the ball. So to me, it's him. I don't like Lynch at all, so I'd stay away from him. Who we got? Austin Eckler. Oh, I'm sorry, Scott. The other part of your question, also Mike Davis or Eckler. You got to go Eckler. He's consistent week to week. You have no idea how Pete Carroll's going to incorporate those guys. I'm guessing if if the starting running Carson gets hot against the Raiders, they might just ride him. So to me, Eckler's going to be part of that game plan for the Chargers, so I'd roll with him. We're going to go over to this other question over here. We got Ron, no problem. Please keep the questions coming. Josh Gordon or Marquise Goodwin? I think Gordon's about to go off tonight. Reason being, Brady last night on Instagram or one of those social platforms that I'm too old to understand, basically put a picture of Gordon from last week catching a touchdown and had some sort of motivational phrase on it. And I just think tonight's the night he's going to have that coming out party for the Pats. I see him having 2 touchdowns tonight, over 100 yards. Another week, an extra 3 days of practice. I think it's Gordon. Much more talented than Marquise Goodwin. I just traded for him in my keeper league yesterday, so I'm happy with that. But Gordon's certainly the play there. Is it worth trading for Le'Veon Bell? I have Ingram, Mixon, Howard, Gordon. No, because there's 2 problems here. One, either Le'Veon Bell is not going to play for the Steelers. He's going to get traded to a situation we don't know about. And the fact is you're going to have to give up something to get him. And your running back position right now with Ingram, who's solid, Mixon, who's solid, Howard, who's solid, and Gordon, who's amazing. Right now, stay at what you will. I would actually look to trade one of those running backs for a better receiver, depending on what you got going on there. Ross comes in with a question. Fuller, Funchess, or Mike Williams play 1? Bud, I'm going to go Will Fuller here. Again, you know my thoughts on Mr. Newton, so I don't trust Funchess, and I certainly don't think Mike Williams is worth the risk this week. I think he's just too boom or bust. Fuller's the best player of those 3. Biggest potential there, so give me him. Pick 2. And sorry again, as the questions are coming, it's awesome. I love having all the questions. Keep them coming. We'll go through them. Pick 2. Jordan Howard, Emmanuel Sanders, Phillip Lindsay. PPR. Jordan Howard for sure. On the road, Miami, he's got to he's got to control the clock. I don't know if they're going to trust Trubisky on the road. Brock Osweiler playing for the Dolphins, as I mentioned earlier. So to me, Howard, and then Sanders or Lindsay in PPR. Steven, who else is potentially on your roster there? And there's 2 reasons why. 1, the Rams defense, obviously, that could shut down Lindsay. And 2, the weather conditions in Denver with snow most likely throughout the day. So, Steve, if you have a couple other options, put them in there. I wouldn't trust Sanders or Lindsay that much today, so I'll get back to you on that one. What do you think of streaming Jared Goff? Don't like it, Ariel, simply because of that weather. Normally, you tell me that the Rams are going up against Denver, who just got lit up last week by Sam Darnold and Crowell. Love it. Unless the weather magically clears within the next 40 minutes before you're ready to set your lineup, I wouldn't play Goff today. I'd find a better option. I love the weapons as usual. Most games, obviously, I'm comfortable playing them. Not this week in that snow in Denver. Would you start Sanders or Woods with that weather? No, John, as I just mentioned, I just think it's too risky this week, especially with both those receivers. There's got to be a better option. Put some options in your league at the bottom, and I'll get to it for sure. Scott, no problem. Braid or Olsen? Jerry, great question. Blake, I'll get to you in 1 second. Braid or Olsen? I'm going to go Olsen, and the reason is this. As much as I am worried about him taking 1 hit, now that O.J. Howard is back for the Bucs, Cameron Braid's stock comes down. Look, he may get involved in that bonanza down there today in Atlanta between them and the Bucs. To me, though, Olsen's a superstar. If he's active and you have him as an option over Braid, who's a backup tight end now, you got to go Olsen. 2 out of 3, Boyd, Kupp, Hopkins. Hopkins for sure, and Tyler Boyd's my other one. Kupp, again, that weather condition in Denver concerns me a lot. I think Boyd's going to have a big afternoon. A.J. Green's going to be covered by Joe Hayden. The Steelers have no one else in that secondary. Dalton has trust in Boyd. Yes, it had a down week last week. He'll regroup today. I like Boyd and Hopkins for sure. Hines or McCoy, PPR. Great question. I'm going Hines. And again, this is one of those questions at the beginning of the season. If you said to yourself, I'm going to play Naheem Hines, who you probably never heard of before the season, compared to LaShawn McCoy, you'd laugh. But the fact of the matter is, LaShawn McCoy right now is not a good fantasy player. Hines is, especially in PPR, which is your format. John, no problem. My pleasure. Should I put Josh Gordon in over Lindsay? Absolutely, Steven. As I just, I'm assuming it's, Josh Gordon. Absolutely. Phillip Lindsay's a very good player. He's played in these conditions before. He went to Colorado, so he's familiar with it. I just can't trust anyone in the snow. It's beautiful here in the Northeast today. This should be a nice night in Boston, in New England for that game tonight. So for me, it's Josh Gordon. Absolutely. I think he goes off tonight. Deshaun Jackson, John Brown, or Baldwin Standard League. I like Deshaun Jackson, Carlos, simply because of the fantasy bonanza going on in Atlanta. I think every single person on that field, much like in that Chiefs-Patriots game, is probably in line for a very big afternoon. So to me, that's the play there. Jerry, no problem. John Brown, I'm worried about. Again, that offense looked terrible last week, and Baldwin, just simply bad. DT in the snow or chance it with Baldwin, Cliff. I actually like Baldwin here. I do think, again, we're talking about Baldwin in the sense that if you have better options, to me, you got to play him. But I don't like Demaryius Thomas as a fantasy player anymore. I think he's too, boomer bust. Last week he got a garbage time touchdown. I just think Baldwin's going to see the ball. I just think his volume's going to be there in the snow. We don't know what those conditions are going to be like, so it's too much of a risk for me. Rojo or Foreman rest of the season? Brandon, that's an awesome question. I do think that Lamar Miller is about done as the Texans' future running back. But I also think Jones is going to be a really solid player, especially in that offense where, remember something, he's a very good receiver out of the backfield. He showed that at USC, and considering Tampa plays no defense whatsoever, I think that Jones is probably the better option because I think he gets the opportunity first before Foreman. But I think I like both of them. Both good names there. Cliff, no problem. Morris and Buck Allen or stream Eckler in place of one of them? Great question, Blake. Look, I think the problem with Alfred Morris is, God forbid Matt Breida wakes up tomorrow and his injury is healed, he's worth 0. That's my concern with that. I would certainly not play Breida and risk it. I'd play Breida if I had Alfred Morris, or at least, plan to because I had the backup. To me, Eckler is the name on that list, Blake, for sure. Go with that one. We got questions. I'm coming over back here. Full Lines is doing great. Keep up the great work. Absolutely. Josh, thank you for the comments. Let's run through a couple things as we have a little lull here and some questions. I want to give you some stock up, guys. TJ Yeldon is the first name on my list. We'll talk about him. Winston Coleman we've talked about with no Devontae Freeman. Jarvis Landry we've talked about. And Christian Kirk on the Cardinals. Let's go into Coleman first. Look, Devontae Freeman out again this week. Ito Smith is the backup. Coleman is certainly talented. He actually failed in his first couple opportunities, I think, this year. But today, to really assume that starting job when Freeman was out. But today against the Bucks, this is a game from last year, I believe, against the Bucks. He just ran all over the Bucks last year. I think there's much the same there this week, so expect that to be a big game for him. You got Landry. Again, look at this guy's hands and feet. Incredible play action with Mayfield. Great chemistry. I think it continues today against the Chargers. I love this guy. Rashard Higgins out. Njoku, I think, gets stock up too. So to me, love Jarvis Landry. Then you got Yeldon. Fournette out again. He might be out till week 10. I mean, that's just crazy. Against the Cowboys, there is no Corey Grant. He's out. I think he's out for the season. So TJ Yeldon's really the only guy there. Dallas is a good defense, but to me, when you got 100% of the carry share, decent price in DFS, you go with Yeldon. Some stock down guys, Adrian Peterson, Breida, we talked about, Lamar Miller, we just talked about Amari Cooper and Sterling Shepard. We'll get back to the questions in 1 second. To me, Peterson, stock down. Why? Bum shoulder, dislocated it last week. He's still going to play. You saw last week in that game against the Saints, his game script went away from him. He's not the usual guy here that's catching passes out of the backfield. This was week 1 against the Cardinals. This is not him. And usually that's Chris Thompson who's out. I think Capri Bibbs, the running back to own this week for the Redskins. Then got Lamar Miller. The guy's been so disappointing, so uber talented. Went to the Texans. You would think with the great receivers that they have that they would take the attention off Miller. He's been a bust completely. So to me, you got to stay away from Miller this week as well. And then Matt Breida, banged up. Again, I think he's in a bad spot this week. He's Monday Night Football. You got to have a better option out there and be ready to go in a different direction. We'll talk about these stardom guys in a second. We have more questions coming in, so I want to jump back. Please pick 2, Zeke, Carson, and Lynch. Zeke and Carson, no questions asked. You got to play your studs. So to me, that's Zeke, obviously. Carson's been very good the last few weeks. I think they punished the Raiders on the ground. They really don't have much of a receiving core right now outside of Baldwin. And again, I think Lynch is past his prime. I just think he is. I think they trust the passing game with Carr, with Nelson, with Cooper, with Jared Cook, with Martavis Bryant if he's active. He had the flu this week, so he's questionable. So make sure you get that injury update, or not injury update, but illness update before you put him. And yes, Brock Osweiler in for the Dolphins this week with Tannehill officially out. So there you go, Zeke and Carson. Who should you start, Isaiah Crowell or Rashad McCoy? Half PPR. Eric, great question. I'm going to go Crowell again. Look, Sony Michel dominated the Colts last week on the ground. The Jets have a better offensive line, surprisingly, than the Patriots do. You saw what he did last week, 200 yards. He had a pretty good Denver defense. And again, I just do not like where Shady McCoy is right now. He's the only weapon on that team. He's not 100% healthy. A rookie quarterback I just don't like that matchup for him at all. Cameron Wake, injury news, arthroscopic surgery on his injured knee, so obviously that's going to take a little time for him to get back. So another blow for the Dolphins there. Josh Doxson, active, but you got Crowder out and Paul Richardson in, so those are big questions there. Eric, no problem. Keep the questions coming. We got plenty of time to go here. Plenty of questions could still come in. obviously. We'll go through right now some stardom and sit-em guys. O.J. Howard's a big name on this list. He's back from injury today. He's active. Cameron Brate takes a step back. So to me, you got to get him in your lineup in the Bonanza Showdown. You got Ridley, Gordon, Jones, and Robinson. I actually like these guys, and I'll go through a little bit reason why. Allen Robinson has clearly become the number one target now for Trubisky. Here's his touchdown 2 weeks ago against the Bucs. Came over from the Jaguars. Good quarterback now on the road. He's a security blanket. I really like Robinson in this spot this week. So for me, it's him. Let's go back real quick. A couple more questions. Kike Kute or Chester Rogers flex? Derek, this is a really interesting one because Kute scored the last 2 weeks, as we know. But he is the third option for the Texans. Chester Rogers is a guy that's caught a bunch of balls and has been a favorite target of Luck. And for a few reasons, I'm going to go Chester Rogers, which sounds scary, but here's the reason why. No T.Y. Hilton, no Jack Doyle, and Eric Ebron isn't 100%, as I mentioned earlier. The injury report, if you look it up on Ebron, he's got injuries to his elbow, his neck, his foot. I mean, bad. So to me, Rodgers is going to get targets. I think that the Colts can't run the ball. We've seen that. So to me, Chester Rogers is probably going to get 7 or 8 targets today. Hopefully turns out into 5 or 6 catches, about 60 yards. Maybe finds end zone. To me, it's Chester Rogers. Who starts for the Bucs, Barber or Jones? That's a great question. I can't wait to see it myself because I am a keeper league Jones owner, and I'm not high on Barber. To me, a lot of the things I've heard coming out of Bucs camp over the bye week was that they're going to give Jones a shot here. I wouldn't trust either one today in my fantasy lineup, but long term I would certainly take Jones because I just don't think Barber's earned any of those feature back carries moving forward, considering the struggle he's had so far this season. Crabtree or D.D. Westbrook? I like D.D. Westbrook here. And the reason is Crabtree in that offense looked so done last week and stale in that game against the Browns that I just don't see them bouncing back big against the Titans today, who play really good defense. They're pretty sound defensively. I know they gave up Alshon Jeffrey about 8 catches and a touchdown in his return game last week. But again, do you trust Joe Flacco against that Titans defense? I just don't, not as much as I trust even Blake Bortles against Dallas. And I think, Westbrook's just a big play guy. David, we could disagree on Kike and Rodgers. I just think the volume is going to be there. And I'm scared with Kike about the volume. So that's that one. But I would go Westbrook. Hines, Ito Smith, Peyton Barber. I know the best options. Pick one. Hines. Christian, I'm going to go Hines because he's that feature back right now, and he's the best receiving back out of those three. I don't like Peyton Barber at all, as I kind of mentioned. Ito Smith I like as a backup. He scored a couple weeks ago when Freeman was out, but to me, Hines is that PPR monster. He's in the mold of a Danny Woodhead or a Rex Burkhead even, where he's going to catch the ball out of the backfield. He's solid. Luck trusts him. They're going to probably be playing from behind against the Jets. Go with Hines. Should we trust Robbie Anderson this week, or is he going to bust? Bust. Also, Seattle D or Cowboys. To me, Blake, I'll get to your question because that's a great one in a second. The Seahawks defense to me today is a good play. I like the Cowboys defense at home today too. I think they lose the game to the Jaguars, but to me, I like the Cowboys defense. And to go kind of piggyback on what Blake's question is, I actually like the Ravens defense and the Titans defense going up against each other. Neither offense is very good. Neither quarterback is great right now. Neither running game is good right now. I like both those options, and the one that I like the best now especially is the Bears. I know you'll have to pay up for them, and they're probably not available in your league, but again, Brock Osweiler is the quarterback. That says it all. So that's the one right there. Aloha to you too, Derek. Miller or Eckler? And I'm guessing, Leaf, that is just confirmed for me, Leaf. Lamar Miller or Eckler, before I answer that question. O.J. Howard or Brate? Raymond, O.J. Howard all day. He's on this list. Check it out right here. See? You asked me the question right there. He's the starter. He's more explosive than Brate. He's back from injury. Got to go O.J. Howard. Does Cam have a big day or look elsewhere? I don't like Cam this week. Washington at home is a different team than Washington on the road, like we saw against New Orleans. Washington beat Green Bay early this season. I don't love Cam. I don't love Cam's weapons outside of McCaffrey, so I would go elsewhere. Yes, okay, so Leaf, the question is Lamar Miller or Eckler. I actually like Eckler this week. I just can't trust Lamar Miller. He was active last week. He did nothing. Alfred Blues is back up. He stinks. So to me, that whole situation's a mess. I'd go Eckler. You've seen him get incorporated into this game plan week after week after week. So to me, it's Eckler. Kenny Still, Erica, great question. Kenny Stills or Jordy Nelson? I'm going Nelson. I think he scored in 3 straight weeks, and Kenny Stills is Brock Osweiler throwing the football. Enough said. I think Derek Carr is obviously a better quarterback than Osweiler. Nelson's a seasoned veteran, while Stills had a great first week in the Dolphins win against the Titans. Outside that, he hasn't really done much. So to me, give me Jordy Nelson. We'll go back here to this. Is this the week Julio Jones finally gets in the end zone? Christian, great question. And I also appear every Sunday morning on SNY cable network out in New York, the Mets network, for DraftKings. And one of the questions that came up this week was, who is your anchor play? Like, who do you have to have in your lineup? And my guy was Julio Jones. This has to be the week, right? Like, everyone has these formulas of who is the worst defense, who is the best defense, whatever. To me, Julio Jones just needs to score. Calvin Ridley's been amazing, and in a game against the Bucs, that they just gave up 48 points to Mitch Trubisky and that team, I think the Falcons will get there. So to me, yes, Julio Jones, he's going to be there. He's in all my cash game lineups. Hopefully he goes off. Kupp or Baldwin? This is a really tough one. Leaf, I would obviously check the weather right now. Stop what you're doing. Get the phone and check the weather in Denver and see what the forecast is going to be. Because I don't love Baldwin this week, but I also don't trust any of those offensive players outside of Gurley in that Denver Ram game because of the snow. If they say it's going to clear up by 4 o'clock, fine. I'd probably go Kupp. If not, I just have to go Baldwin and hope that Kupp doesn't blow up or the weather gets better at halftime because I just don't trust snow games. Remember, Brady had that amazing game a handful of years ago, probably 8-10 years ago, against the Oilers where he threw, I think, 6 or 7 touchdowns in the first half in a snowstorm. That doesn't happen all the time. And that was at home against a really bad Titans team. The Broncos are better defensively than they showed last week against the Jets. That's why I'm worried about Kupp in the snow. That's the only reason why. Alvin, D. Cook and Freeman out. I have Marlon Mack and Buck Allen on my bench. Alvin, we can't have you do that. I'm sorry. I love you too much, Alvin. I do. Tell me who else is on the waiver wire. Let's pick someone else up for you because Marlon Mack is not the guy in Indy, and Buck Allen's too much of a TD or bust guy for you to be playing him this week. So let's certainly go away from that if we possibly can. So we showed you Robinson. We got Calvin Ridley here, who's another guy I think very highly of this week. He's going to certainly go off. Gordon, we talked about earlier. This was that great touchdown catch last week from Brady, his 500th touchdown in his career. I just think that Gordon is going to have a huge night tonight and make Patriots fans really happy, including my son, who was very happy to hear I traded for him yesterday. Question coming in. Emmanuel Sanders versus Jarvis Landry versus Corey Davis have to start 2 and point per first down week. Interesting. Josh, I've never heard of that kind of a week before. I like it. Landry's definitely in for me. He's a PPR beast, and that means to me he gets a lot of first downs. Love Baker Mayfield this week against the Chargers. By the way, real quick timeout here. Baker Mayfield, if he's available in your league, look at his matchups the next 5 weeks. Chargers, I think Tampa, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, another terrible defense. It's 5 weeks in a row. He's going to go off. This guy's going to certainly be coming to the top 12 of quarterbacks after 5 weeks. Mark it here. I called it here. The other guy, I got him to go Corey Davis. The only reason I'm saying that is because I don't trust any of those Denver receivers in the snow. So Davis, I don't love the play. He's more talented than Sanders. I'm just worried about him against that Ravens secondary. But again, the Bengals torched that Ravens secondary in week 2, I think. So to me, it's Corey Davis who I would play there with Jarvis Landry. Another question. Devin Cook or Freeman. Okay, Justin, Cam or Big Ben or Wire is CJ Beathard, Mitch Trubisky. Again, Justin, love you. If I said to you at the beginning of the season, you're going to play CJ Beathard over Cam Newton or Big Ben, you would have called me crazy, turned off my stream, and gone and done something else. Great question, though, because Beathard has done really well the last 2 weeks. To me, it's Big Ben. Whenever you have Antonio Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, Connor, James Washington, the other guys there, he's got to play. I think they're in the Bengals' heads. I think the Bengals win the game, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. But for me, it's Big Ben. I just don't trust Cam. And CJ Beathard, look, he's been okay. He's thrown a bunch of picks too. Trubisky also, I think if Trubisky was at home, I feel a lot more comfortable playing him at home simply because of the fact that he's more comfortable there. On the road in Miami, I think they'll lean on Jordan Howard a little bit. So to me, the play there is Ben and then Cam, and forget the other 2 guys. Keep the questions coming in. We'll kind of go through some of the bench guys now. We have a second. So Baldwin, I know that some of you guys I have recommended Baldwin, but again, that's just based on matchups. Alex Smith against Carolina, John Brown, again, down Peyton Barber, we've talked about a lot this morning, and Josh Rosen against that Vikings defense. I just cannot at all trust them this week. Some guys that we talked about last week, I'm going to do a little refresh on the news here. Leaf, do you think Connor will be relevant when Bell comes back? Yes. And I think there's 2 reasons why. One, Big Ben has already come out and said, we need Connor in this offense. So I think they'll figure out a way to get him involved. The second is, I'm not still sure that Le'Veon Bell is coming back to the Steelers ever. He has not been in contact with the Steelers directly. He made a public statement saying, I'm coming back. But remember something. Bell's then going to have to walk into that locker room, and if they're struggling, they lose today, let's say, against Cincinnati, they're under 500, I don't know if that happens. They're not going to just welcome him back with open arms if they're under 500 not going anywhere. To me, there's still a very good shot that he gets traded. So, to me, I like Connor's value. If I was in a keeper league, I'd certainly buy him because I think he'll be their future back next year. He's a homegrown guy. He went to Pitt in college. So, they like that story, and I'm sure the Steelers fans at this point are fed up with Le'Veon Bell, and the organization wants nothing to do with him, but they just trying to play hardball. To me, we'll see, but I would certainly keep Connor on my team without a doubt. Some keeper guys to keep an eye on as well. Some guys, this is a similar list that we had last week. These are long-term guys that, whether or not they are replacing someone that's been injured or not, I think these guys have a huge upside. Marquise went off last week with the touchdown for the Packers. Ito Smith's going to get an opportunity again today because of Freeman's injury. Ronald Jones, I think, might start today for the Bucs. We're still waiting to see that. Nick Chubb. Look, Chubb is the type of guy here. He's explosive. He had those 2 really long carries for touchdowns against the Raiders 2 weeks ago. They got Carlos Hyde there, who's a very solid running back. But look, they drafted Chubb pretty high. I expect them to get him involved as much as possible. We're going to go back right now. Some more questions coming in. I have Bell. Would you trade him? Christian, in a second, I would trade Le'Veon Bell. But here's the thing. I talked about this with someone last week, and they got back to me during the week. Throw out the name Le'Veon Bell to your league. Take it in. See what your best offer is. Email me back. Or find me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Because this is the reason why. I think he's gonna. His value right now is sky high. Let's say he gets traded. We don't know how quickly he's gonna get up to speed. We don't know how quickly he's going to perform. We don't know how quickly he's going to say, I don't want to play here anymore. I don't want to get hurt, and I don't want to ruin my contract. So to me, get all the answers in, look at your team, see where your weaknesses are, and then go from there in terms of analyzing whether or not you want to trade him. But I certainly would consider it for sure. Looking forward to next week. How screwed are owners of Kamara? Blake, that's a great question, and I would not worry. I'll come over to your house. I'll tell you you're going to be fine. I'll give you a little hug and say you're going to be fine because you're going to be fine. Look, I think they wanted to incorporate Ingram into the game last week, get him back. That's why he scored those 2 touchdowns. The game script went away from Breeze in terms of including Kamara last week because those receivers were running wide open. I think they wanted to get Traquan Smith involved with Ted Ginn out. Remember something. Last year when Kamara was as explosive as he was, Ingram was there. The reason you drafted Kamara as high as you did this year, yes, Ingram was going to be suspended, but because of how good he was last year. This is the same team, same quarterback, same coach. Don't worry about Kamara. Thank you. I don't know that. Blake, I'll see you a little later. With Tannehill out, could the Bears offense play more? I don't know what that means, but I think yes. I think because Osweiler is going to probably throw 3 interceptions, fumble twice, and take a safety. So to me, yeah, I think the Bears offense will get the ball a little bit more. I don't love anyone. I like Robinson this week. I like Jordan Howard this week. Really wouldn't and maybe Trey Burton too. Like him. We didn't really talk about him today. But Gabriel, he's a boomer bust guy. Trubisky on the road. Don't love that. Why is John Braun a sit this week? He's getting peppered with targets weekly. Nick, it's simply because of this. 2 things. 1, Joe Flacco. 2, they looked terrible last week. They didn't score double digits. And 3, Tennessee plays really well defensively. So to me, that's why John Brown's a sit guy this week. He had a really good start to the season. I just don't see him as a guy that I would play weekly, especially in DFS, in DraftKings or FanDuel. I just don't like it. I think the upside to me is not there. In the right matchup, I would certainly play him against Tampa, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, a team that doesn't play well in the secondary. But Tennessee's been very good. Check out the numbers on Tennessee so far this year. A lot of low-scoring games, a lot of close games. I just don't love them this week. So that's that one. Let's go over here. On the fantasy football page, certainly keep your questions coming in. The Phantom page, tons of questions coming in. Love it. We're going to cycle through. We'll go to game picks in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. We'll go into there, give you some betting picks there. Jordan Reed, big game with all the other injuries potentially. Justin, I think it's a right game for that to happen. The Panthers, again, they're an up and down team as well. They need to hit their stride here, the Panthers. But again, they don't have Crowder, they don't have Thompson. Peterson's banged up and old. Paul Richardson's more of a deep play guy. If Reed can stay on the field, that's the biggest question with Jordan Reed. He's a top 5 tight end if he ever could stay healthy. I just never rostered him because he's just injured all the time. And they do have a capable backup with Vernon Davis too. Reports the Cardinals are open to trading Patrick Peterson. That's great. Doesn't help us today, but that's interesting for a team like the Chiefs, who I think could certainly go and make a move for Peterson. That's very interesting. Woods, even though the snow in Denver. No. Tony, we kind of talked about this a little bit, but I'll recap. I just don't love any of the Rams today in Denver in the snow. They certainly can make plays. As I mentioned, the Brady game a few years ago where he went off for 6 touchdowns against the Titans in the first half. I just don't love it. If you have other options, throw them in the chat room, and I'll kind of go through them. Maybe he's a play for me, depending on who else you have there. But I've got to think that there's a safer play out there than him. Would you go in Dallas versus Jaguar game? Who you got? We're going to get to that right now. How about we do that right now? We'll get to some game picks right now. Just for you, Joe. All right, you ready? Chargers, -3. I like Baker Mayfield. I'm playing this week. I think this has a 30-28 type, 30-25 type of game on it. Cleveland's defense has been pretty good. I just like the Chargers. They're a little more explosive. Better running back, better receivers. Give me the Chargers. Bears, love them now. This number is easy. This is cake. This would be my lock of the day against Brock Osweiler. Obviously, this number was yesterday before we heard the news that Tannehill's out. Indy at the Jets. I never picked the Jets. That's my pick there. The Jets are also one of these teams that plays great one week, crappy the next week, great the next week, worse the next week. To me, they played great last week. Colts win this week. No reason why, other than that. Panthers, I like the Panthers on the road against Washington. I don't like what I saw against the Saints last week. I think the Panthers are more talented. All the injuries to the Redskins on the offensive side of the ball. Give me the Panthers. We got Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. I like Cincinnati at home. I think this is the year that they get overcome the Steelers and the Ravens and win that division. And I think that the Pittsburgh defense is as bad as it's been in years. So that's why I'm going to pick the Cardinals. Quick question. DJ or TJ Yeldon standard? Jonas, I actually like TJ Yeldon, and this is nuts also. Imagine me asking you this question. I'm assuming DJ is David Johnson. But to begin with the season, can you imagine me asking you a question, TJ Yeldon or David Johnson? That's just a crazy question. But look, Yeldon's going to get all the carries. There's no Corey Grant. There's no Fournette against Dallas. I don't like the Cardinals against that Vikings defense. He might get a touchdown, but I think the upside's there for Yeldon. A lot of catches. You saw he's able to catch the ball in the backfield, receiving touchdowns the last couple weeks. I like Yeldon. Baldwin and Brown are going to go off. Okay. The rest, who would ever start them? You're not good. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate the great comment. Look, I hope Baldwin goes off. I do, because I do think he's a very good player, and he's a target machine. But to me, he had one catch last week, or one target last week. To me, that shows me that they're keying on the ground game because they're establishing Davis and Carson. They don't trust the other receivers, and the teams on the opposite end don't trust them throwing to Tyler Lockett or Brandon Marshall or whoever else they got going there. So to me, I like Baldwin. I think against some other guys that are comparable, you got to play him because he's going to get his targets. But for me this week, I'm just a little concerned about Baldwin. And then John Brown, I hope I'm right. I hope I'm wrong. Or I hope I'm right. But to me, I just don't like it against that Titans matchup. You might have other receivers that are better. Play him. If you don't have any other receivers that are as good, not as good matchups, okay, I can see you playing them. Wide receiver 3, no problem. But we'll see how that goes. Watson or Winston? Chris, I actually think this is a toss-up. I don't think you could go wrong here. I think they're both going to finish pretty close in terms of where they'll finish. Both should, put up a bunch of points. I think Watson's going to have his way against Buffalo. He's got 2 solid receivers. I think Winston's going to have his way. I think both these guys are going to finish probably within 3 to 4 points of each other. If I had to pick one, I would probably pick Winston because I could see more garbage time points for him. If they get into a shootout and they fall behind late by 2 touchdowns, he'll probably throw a touchdown late in the game. I guess Winston, but again, I don't think you could go wrong here. Long term, for sure, it's Watson. No question. Woods in the snow or Kike. This is a very interesting one too, Derek, and here's where I would actually play Woods. The guy's going to be on the field. He's going to get his touches. Yes, Kupp and Cooks missed some time last week with their concussions, but they're going to be back. They're going to be active, the report as of this morning. So for me, it's Woods against Kike because he's guaranteed to be on the field. Kike is the third option there. Risky. Fantasy football site, keep the questions coming in. They've been great all morning. Josh and Erica, keep those questions coming. It's been great. We'll go through some more game picks right now. Let's go. Houston, I like them -10 against Buffalo. Just don't trust Josh Allen on the road, even though we won at Minnesota. Give me Seattle in London, 2.5 against the Raiders. I just think they're a more well-rounded team. Wilson's a better quarterback. They got the better coach. Give me the Seahawks. I like the Vikings I just mentioned, -10. I think this one's an easy one, considering the fact that the Cardinals are starting a rookie quarterback. I like the Vikings. I like the Falcons to win a shootout against the Bucs. We're just talking a field goal. I think the Bucs actually have a worse defense than the Falcons, which is saying something, considering the Falcons have given up 37 or more in 3 straight weeks. I just don't trust Winston as much as I trust Matt Ryan. And the Rams in the snow against Denver. I don't care that it's snowing. The Rams' defense is better. The Rams' offense is more talented. And I don't trust Case Keenum as far as I can throw him. So give me the Rams. PPR flex, John Brown or Baldwin? Joel, it's like you read my mind here. Give me Doug Baldwin. And this is exactly why, a type of question that I would answer Doug Baldwin. Again, he's going to get targets. I think that he's going to be in a position to get his targets. It's just a question of him producing on it and getting in the end zone. John Brown, to me, is more of a big play guy, not as much of a PPR guy. This is where I say you go Doug Baldwin. He's the better, more talented receiver, better quarterback, better matchup. You go Doug Baldwin. So, Joel, there's your scenario there. Keep the questions coming. Love them. We got about 20 minutes before kickoff. Let's finish our game picks. Jacksonville on the road at Dallas. Give me the Jags. I just don't trust the Cowboys. How are they going to put up any points or yardage against that Jags defense? I just don't see it happening. So, to me, the Jaguars are the pick. Baltimore, 2.5 at Tennessee. Something tells me that this is one of those games that's going to be low scoring, 13-10, 16-13. I just trust the Ravens a little bit more. Don't love what I've seen at all from the Titans rushing game. Both defenses are pretty good. This is a toss-up, complete toss-up. Just give me the Ravens. I like the Pats tonight. Yes, I'm a Homer Patriots fan, but the reason is this. Two reasons. One, quarterbacks that are 25 and under at New England under Belichick. I think the record is like 1-47 or something ridiculous like that. That's Mahomes tonight. The Patriots have also had 3 extra days to prepare. They remember last season's opener against the Chiefs, where the Chiefs came in there and won. I also think they're going to get Gordon going. Edelman's back week 2. Gronk has 3 extra days of rest. The Chiefs have now come off back-to-back huge, monumental games in terms of pressure. At Denver, where they were down, and at home against Jacksonville last week, and a big game last week. Now they have to get the emotions up for a 3rd straight week. I'm concerned about that for the Chiefs. So give me the Falcons, and I think the Packers win big tomorrow night. PPR, different league. Corey Davis or Taylor Gabriel. That's a tricky one. And that's a very interesting one, simply because of the fact that I don't think Gabriel's going to get a ton of targets, but I also don't trust Corey Davis against the Ravens. But because I think that Corey Davis is going to get more targets and is more of a big play threat and is the better, more talented player, I'd go Corey Davis. Josh Gordon or Sanu? Jonas, this is the easiest question I had today. Thank you for this. I appreciate cookies like this. My answer is Josh Gordon. He's going to go off tonight. If he doesn't, I'd be very surprised. I think he gets 5 or 6 catches, over 100, and a touchdown or 2. There is no match for him in that Chiefs secondary. The last week was the type of play he makes week in, week out. Now I think an extra 3 days in the system. He's got Gronk back and Edelman. I think this is his real coming out party tonight. Josh Gordon for me over Sanu. Drake or Hyde in PPR. Nick, this is another one that I think that you may have not seen the news yet, but Brock Osweiler is quarterbacking today for the Dolphins. So, they also said that Drake, after last week where he made a bunch of those receptions in PPR, they're going to use him in that format. So he's not going to be on the field in early downs. And now with Osweiler in at quarterback, I can't trust him at all. So give me Hyde, who has scored a bunch this season. I like Mayfield in this game. I like the matchup against the Chargers. The Chargers give him a ton of points. Give me Hyde. Jacob wants to know Ravens or Texans defense. Great question, bud. I think you can't go wrong. I think the Texans defense is probably more talented than the Ravens, but either one. I think the Bills are going to struggle to move the ball against the Texans. The Texans played well defensively last week against the Cowboys, and then the Ravens play the Titans today on the road. So to me, give me the Texans. They're at home. I like them. I like defenses when they play at home, not defenses that have to travel on the road. You never know. As we know, the Ravens got lit up by the Bengals. Jake, you watched that game against the Bengals where they got lit up on a Thursday night and gave up, 3 touchdowns to A.J. Green. So give me the Texans. Great question, bud. Goff or Rivers? Rivers, all day. Reason being, look, the Browns' defense has been pretty good, but they also gave up 400 yards of passing to the Raiders a couple weeks ago. Goff in the snow. Rivers is the much safer play there. Come over here. We got Latavius Murray or Frank Gore. Again, I think these are 2 guys that are at the end of their line here in terms of their careers, but Frank Gore on the Dolphins with Osweiler, no thank you. I think that the Vikings will throw the ball all over the yard today against the Cardinals because of the fact that Dalvin Cook's not there. But for me, Latavius Murray could get those red zone rushes, so give me him. You got this. Thank you. Thank you very much. I don't know who you are, Donna. Just kidding. I got it. Thank you. Adam Jones, Lockett, or Amari need a boom play started OBJ standard scoring. Great question, Daniel. You got to go Amari here, and I'm guessing Adam Jones is Aaron Jones of the Packers. Look, we don't know what the Packers situation is going to be tomorrow night with Randall Cobb and Geronimo Allison, potentially banged up and missing the game. So they may be down a couple receivers. That to me means more opportunity for Ty Montgomery potentially. Aaron Jones, I think I like as a play, but Cooper's your stud player. So for me. So for me, it's Amari. Again, you asked me this question at the beginning of the season, who are you going to play, Amari, Lockett, or Aaron Jones? You'd laugh at me. But I think Cooper has to get involved here if the Raiders are going to have any success. Nelson scored the last 3 weeks. Give me Cooper. We're going to go through this. Who has better offense, Dallas or the Jaguars? Neither. That's the answer there. I think the Jaguars win this game simply because I don't trust the Dallas offense against the Jaguars defense. I trust them less than the Jaguars offense against the Dallas defense. So, Joe, I would go neither. Tracy, another question. How many touchdowns will the Patriots score today? Let's do some math. I think they're going to score 38 or 45. So it's 6, 5. Let's go with 6. Why not? Bonanza time. 6 touchdowns tonight. Big party at my house. Let's go Pats against the Chiefs. So let's go 6. Jared Cook or Kittle, and thank you for the answers. Jonas, my pleasure. That's what we're here for. I like Jared Cook. A couple reasons why. He's developed that chemistry as one of Derek Carr's biggest receivers this year. You've seen that Cooper has struggled, and Nelson scored. Cook's been their most consistent guy week in and week out. Love Jared Cook this week. You, the real MVP. KY, preach, my friend. Preach. Thank you. Keep the questions coming. Would you start Bibbs over Murray or Gore? Josh, this is a great question. I was hoping someone would bring this up. Simply because no one knows who Capri Bibbs is outside of me. I won a fantasy league in college. Yes, I'm a nerd. I play fantasy college football. I won a league thanks to Capri Bibbs. Look up his college stats at Colorado State. But what I would say to you is this. Yes, no Chris Thompson, no Jamison Crowder. What do those guys do best for Alex Smith? Short passes out of the backfield, intermediate, move the chains. I think Adrian Peterson's we know Peterson's playing. The problem is he's got a dislocated shoulder. So to me, Bibbs is going to get the opportunity. I think they're going to be playing from behind a little bit against Carolina. I actually like Bibbs. He's a boomer bust guy. I hate Gore. I would never even touch him this year in any format. I like him as a guy. I actually wrote an article about how he should be a Hall of Famer earlier this year, but I don't like Gore. And Murray, look, it's Murray or Bibbs there. PPR, I'd probably go Bibbs. PPR, Edelman or Tyler Boyd? Ryan, that's an excellent question. And as I kind of mentioned, I'm a Pats guy, so my heart's with Edelman, but my head is with Boyd. And the reason is Boyd and Dalton are going to be on the same page today if the Bengals are going to win. And the reason is I think Joe Hayden's going to slow down AJ Green a little bit. The Bengals are going to want to throw the ball against Pittsburgh, who we know can't stop the pass. So to me, Boyd is looking at a big day. Let's say 7 or 8 catches, over 100 and a touchdown, like Edelman. But again, he's not as much of a red zone guy as Boyd is. He's not going to get as many yards as Boyd. So to me, Edelman will be in that 6 to 7 catch area, but probably 60 to 7 yards. I think Boyd has more upside today. Flex, Lindsey or Carson? Carson. I think that, James, that's a great question. I think the reason there is simply because Chris Carson is going to get the ball. We've seen what he could do when he starts. He's gone over 100. To me, you can't play Lindsey in the snow in Denver. I just don't think they're going to be able to run the ball against the Rams team in that condition. PPR League, 1 point start. Jarvis Landry, Cooks, Kike Kute, Edelman. Dallas, no problem. Happy to help here. Christian, quick answer to your question. Bibbs or Hines? It's Hines all day. You know he's going to get the ball. The Colts are probably going to be playing from behind. Luck trusts him. He's a PPR beast 2 weeks in a row. He scored 2 touchdowns, remember, against the Texans a couple weeks ago. He looked great against the Pats last week. Hines is the answer there. Quick one. 1 point PPR. Landry for sure. I think him, we showed the video of him earlier with that great footwork from Baker and the chemistry there on the play action pass at the goal line in the red zone. So certainly Landry. And the other one, you got it, Christian. And the other one, it's not Kute, and it's between Cooks and Edelman. And to me, again, we're about 13 minutes from when lineups should lock in. Although for Cooks and Edelman, here's your good thing with you, Dallas, and I just thought about this now. Most likely your lineup for that game can wait. So if you get closer to 3 o'clock, 3:30, check the weather in Denver. If it's dry, it's not snowing, they got the snow off the field, play Cooks. He got more upside. We know he's a bigger play guy than Edelman. But if it's snowing there consistently throughout the day, you got to play Edelman. He's just a safer play, and he's going to get the ball from Brady. Beautiful day here in the Northeast, and tonight should be a beautiful night, too, for Pats and Chiefs. They're Christian, no problem. Keep the questions coming. So we got about 12 minutes left. Let's dive in here. Some bold predictions for you. We do this every week. Sometimes we get it right. We got Scantling right last week, big game. So here we go. Tampa Bay versus Atlanta over 65 points. As I mentioned, this is a fantasy bonanza. I think this goes way over. So if you like betting the games, pick this one over. Calvin Ridley and Julio to score. I think they both get involved. They both find the end zone. I think Brady tonight has a better night than Mahomes. Reason being, and I remember this, the Chiefs have a terrible time. Terrible time. They're the worst team in the league at first down defensively. Meaning, the Pats will have ample opportunity to get in very good second down scenarios, 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, something like that. I think Brady, with the extra day to prepare, big week this week. I think he outperforms Mahomes. Colts run out of wide receivers. This is not really bold. Think about it. They have no Hilton. They got a couple guys that are not there. Obviously, Ebron's not 100%. Rodgers, who knows? I'm just kidding, but maybe they run out of receivers. And I actually like the Bengals today. Look, the Pittsburgh Steelers have had the Bengals number. I think this is a different Bengals team. I think they're motivated. They're more talented. They got Mixon now, who's obviously an upgrade over Gio Bernard. They got Tyler Boyd developing. I think they win this game by 10+. That's just my gut. I totally forgot the weather. Appreciate it. Dallas, no problem. That's what I'm here for, my friend. I heard coming in this morning from an expert in Denver that it was supposed to stop snowing, but just check the weather report because you never want to be in one of those situations where they're playing in the snow and they're just handing it off to Gurley. I think Gurley's going to have a huge day. But for me, I would just go there and go Kittle or Cook, Curtis. To me, it's dry in Denver. Breaking news from Greg, who I'm guessing is not in Denver. If he is, great. Thank you for joining us. But Greg, thank you for the analysis. I would still keep an eye on the radar. Simply put, because you never know what's going to happen. You don't know how also the track is there. It could be dry now in terms of no precipitation, but if that track is slippery, Cooks is a speed guy. I don't know how that's going to affect it, really. Kittle or Cook? I love Cook today. Again, I like Derek Carr a lot more than C.J. Beathard. Kittle is probably their best option there. I just don't like him in Green Bay tomorrow night. Cook's been an integral part of that offense all season long. I think that the Raiders probably play from behind again. We'll see, but I like Cook. Hines or Cohen, PPR league 1 point? Hines. Look, Hines at this point to me is the best player. When Hilton's out, he's the best player on that Colts offense outside of Andrew Luck. And you'll say, well, what about Eric Ebron? Ebron's great, but there's a reason he got cut by the Lions. He also has 8 injuries right now. Check his injury report. Hines is great out of the backfield. PPR monster. Give me Hines. Cohen's a good player. And if something ever happened to Jordan Howard, he'd probably be even better, but he's so small, diminutive. They have another complementary piece to him in Gabriel. Very similar player. So for me, I would certainly go Hines there. We'll start Bibbs over Murray. We had that question. So fantasy, we got about 9 minutes before kickoff. Very exciting. We're almost there. Ready for kickoff. Thank you again for everyone joining us on the fantasy forum, Phantom's page on Facebook, and the fantasy sites all across. For that, we always have coverage throughout the week. We do waiver wires on Monday. We do start 'em, sit 'em on Wednesday. We do Cowboys previews because we're big in Dallas. Much more throughout the week. You'd always find me, by the way, on Instagram, Adam Mankuta, or Adam Phantom, I think. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. I have various accounts all over the internet. You could find me. Happy to answer your questions throughout the week, give you trade advice, and things like that. Buck Allen, Frank with a question. Buck Allen or Alfred Morris standard? Give me Alfred Morris. But here's the tricky part, Frank, is that we don't know for sure, 100% yet, if Breida's going to be out tomorrow night. So to me, here's what you do. I don't like Buck Allen, and I think that Breida's going to be out because we've seen nothing that says differently. To me, pick up Morris and plan to play him, but then have the backup to him. So that to me is Aaron Jones available? I would play Jones over Morris anyway, but is he available? Then depending on whether this is a running back spot or a flex spot, if it's a flex spot, get one of those Green Bay receivers ready, whether it's Scantling or maybe Allison plays or maybe it's Ty Montgomery, just to have a backup. I think Morris is the better play. Allen's more of a TD probably guy, but I just can't trust him, especially if he's splitting time with Collins. I do expect Breida to be out, so that's why I play Morris, if that makes sense. I hope that does. Who has the edge today, Tom Brady or Matt Ryan? I think these guys are going to finish 1 and 2 in terms of points this week, in terms of quarterbacks. And maybe Mahomes is somewhere in there. Look, Tampa Bay gave up 48 points, 48 to Mitch Trubisky. They gave up a bunch of points. They gave up 40 to the Saints in week 1. They gave up a bunch to Roethlisberger. I think Matt Ryan is due for a huge day today, but I also think Brady is. I think if you're splitting the apple there, Zach, it's really, they're going to finish pretty close. I don't think you have anything to worry about. If one scores 4 or 5 points more than the other, I wouldn't shock me, but if I don't see it as a 10-point difference where you really have to worry. To me, gun to my head, I'd go Brady. But I think Ryan's very safe. He's got 2 excellent receivers, not to mention Sanu and Coleman and Ito Smith. Reed or Kittle PPR? Frank, no problem. Reed or Kittle PPR? Lynch or Carson PPR? Reed and Carson. Look, there are no weapons out there for the Redskins at receiver right now. I don't trust Paul Richardson week to week. I like Reed if he's healthy and on the field. Look, he's one bad step from being out for the season. We know that with Jordan Reed. But if he's active, you're playing him over Kittle. And Lynch, I think, is done. So I like Carson, actually, in that game. PPR, yeah, Carson. This question for Dallas: Watson or Andrew Luck? I like Watson at home against the Bills. I think Luck, again, down all those weapons. Yes, he put up a bunch of points last week, but how many balls did those Colts receivers drop in New England last week? A handful. The Hopkins and Fuller and Kute are not going to drop those passes for Houston. Give me Watson there. Plenty of questions coming in. I appreciate it. This has been fantastic. We've gone through the bold predictions. We give you the game picks. We've got about 6 minutes to kick off. Love that everyone kind of joined in. Thank you for all the questions. As I said, all week, like our YouTube page, we have plenty of content throughout the week. We do waiver wire on Monday, so you can check that tomorrow, hopefully midday, probably maybe early afternoon, as we kind of get set for waivers for week 7 now. Wow, almost halfway through the year. And then also we do trade bait and start 'em, sit 'em on Wednesdays, some game picks Thursday, Friday, and get ready for the weekend. So any other questions? Austin has the Lynch Carson question, so thank you. We appreciate it. We appreciate it very much. The guys on the fantasy football site, thank you for spreading the word across all your different platforms. We have more questions obviously coming in as best we can. One of my iPads died, it looks like, as I'm sitting here looking at it, froze on the screen. So everyone on that All Sports page through the Fantasy Football Alliance, sorry that I missed your questions. I just realized the thing froze. My bad. We'll fix that for next week. We'll throw out this iPad. How about that? But keep the questions coming in. You the man. First time ever seeing you. About to like the page or whatever. Dallas, thank you, bud. I appreciate it. Again, I put up everything on Instagram that we cover. So if you're on Instagram, you can find me there. And then I'll take you right to the FANTOM page. But again, we do this every Sunday morning, 11:45 to 1, getting ready for kickoff. So find us here. It's been a pleasure, as always, to answer all your guys' questions. This helps me a lot, too. My team at this point is in the tank. In one league, the others are doing excellent because I had some terrible injuries to start the year with Cook and Fournette. So you got to overcome it, though. And that's why we do these shows, so that people kind of get in that mindset to help everyone out. And I think it's a great atmosphere. I would say the other news here, the report is Patrick Peterson wants out. We'll see if that actually happens. Remember, these guys, and we're going to go back up to the breaking news, the injury updates. We'll go through this one more time quick. Tannehill out, Osweiler in for the Dolphins. Dalvin Cook out, Latavius Murray in for the Vikings. Olsen active, Crowell active, O.J. Howard active, Deshaun Watson active, John Ross inactive, Ebron active, Chris Thompson and Jamison Crowder out. Running back in college was arrested. That's great. Anything else? Let's see. Keep it on. We got 4 more. It's Anthony Miller. This is an interesting name. Dallas, I'll get to your question in 1 second. Anthony Miller, interesting name here. Bears, very talented rookie receiver from Memphis. Had a good opening couple weeks. He was hurt. Now he's back after the bye against the Dolphins. He's a sneaky guy on DraftKings and FanDuel. Caught a touchdown, I think, in his last game. He's a sneaky guy. Keep an eye on that one. He's a good one. Doug Baldwin or Cooper Kupp. Again, this all comes back to whether or not it's snowing actually in Denver. Cooper Kupp's the answer 10 out of 10 times, unless it's really bad snow. But because Baldwin is playing in a couple minutes, I can't trust that the weather is not going to turn in the next 3 hours. So I guess I got to play Baldwin, hope for a big game from him. I know that there's some doubters out there. I'm one of them. I wouldn't necessarily play him this week. But against Kupp in that the track there in Denver, that might be a little slick. I guess I'd go Baldwin. We have 3 minutes. Still a bunch of you guys online, hoping that you guys have all your lineups set. Again, I would be very cautious with 3 guys tomorrow night. With that Monday night game. Matt Breida doesn't look like he's going to play, so if you have him and starting him, I hope you have Alfred Morris to back him up. Then you got those 2 receivers from Green Bay. You got Cobb and you got Allison. I don't think either one of them will play, so I think Scantling's going to have another big night. So to me, get those guys in your lineup out, and then get Scantling in, or be ready to insert them if you have Scantling, or have some backup plan there. That's the biggest key, is to have that backup plan. I don't think Trent Taylor in that game, he had a nice game last week. I don't think he's going to play for the 49ers. So that's another guy that's out now, most likely. So if you're looking for a quick backup, if you're stuck. So again, Kittle's an option if he's somehow on your waiver wire. Garcona's a last-minute guy. Ty Montgomery's another name if you get desperate tomorrow night with all the injuries. Dallas, no problem. And so we got 2 minutes. We'll hang out here. No problem for 2 minutes. If anyone has any other questions, I want to thank my guys over at Fantasy Football Channel for helping me stream it over there. We had a great audience today. I love doing this show. You could see the passion in me. Love doing it for you guys. Thank you for the questions. Shout out to Jake, Ross, and Blake, and Tracy out there with all the questions locally. We appreciate you guys chiming in as always. And I shared your stuff everywhere. Leo, you the man. I think we had a great turnout today. My voice is going to hurt, but thank you again. You can check us all week on Phantom Sports on Facebook, facebook.com/Watch Phantom, like our YouTube channel. You'll catch me throughout the week doing content, as well as on Instagram. Please follow me there. Happy to join you guys each and every week. We'll get back to this next Sunday for another episode of the All Out Blitz. Oh, Leo's got a quick question. Hyde's the answer because of the weather conditions in Denver, potentially. I like Hyde. He's going to get the ball in Cleveland. I like them moving the ball against the Chargers. Leo, that's for you. With that, it's a wrap. We will see you guys throughout the weekend. As always, contact me. Happy to help you guys spread the word about the All Out Blitz on Phantom Sports. Let's get some action going. Have a good week.